Captain Kim Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit and watched the stars bend around his ship. 3 years ago, humanity had been alone in the universe. Today, they were about to meet their first aliens. The ship groaned as it dropped, out of faster-than-light travel. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Chief Engineer Park Sora called from the engine room. "Captain, the quantum drive is overheating again. We need to stop for repairs." Dae-ho nodded. This was their 15th breakdown since leaving Earth. The human faster-than-light drive was crude compared to what other species used. But it worked, and that was enough. "Find us a safe place to land, Taemin," Dae-ho said to his navigator. "Lieutenant." Nam Taemin studied his instruments. His fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. "There's a moon nearby. No atmosphere, but stable gravity. We can set down there." The Indomitable Spirit was humanity's first real starship. It looked nothing like the sleek vessels other species built. Human ships were blocky and ugly, covered in extra armor and backup systems. They broke down constantly, but they were nearly impossible to destroy. Park Sora emerged from the engine room, oil stains covering her uniform. She was the best engineer Earth had ever produced. Without her, the ship would have exploded months ago. "How bad is it this time?" Dae-ho asked. "The cooling system is cracked. I can fix it, but we need 3 days." She wiped sweat from her forehead. "Captain, I have to ask again. Why are we out here? Earth has plenty of problems without us flying around breaking our ship." Dae-ho looked out at the stars. "Because we need to know what's out there. Humanity can't stay on one world forever." As the ship landed on the barren moon, sensors picked up something unexpected. Ships were approaching. Lots of them. "Captain," Taemin called, "I'm reading 30 vessels coming our way. They're huge." The alien fleet appeared like ghosts materializing from empty space. Each ship was 3 times longer than the Indomitable Spirit, and perfectly smooth. They moved in perfect formation, not a single vessel out of place. "They're trying to talk to us," reported Communications Officer Lee Jin-ae. "The signal is coming in on multiple frequencies." "Put it through," Dae-ho ordered. The main screen flickered to life. A tall, thin figure appeared. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were large and black. When it spoke, the words came through clearly, in perfect Korean. "Greetings, primitive beings. I am First Admiral Zel Corvain of the Valdorian Enforcement Fleet. You have been detected operating an unauthorized faster-than-light vessel." Dae-ho stepped forward. "I'm Captain Kim Dae-ho of the Earthship Indomitable Spirit. We come in peace." The alien's expression did not change. "Peace is irrelevant. You have violated the Convergence Protocol by developing faster-than-light travel without permission. Your species must now submit to galactic law." "What exactly is the Convergence Protocol?" Dae-ho asked. "It is the foundation of civilized space. All species that achieve faster-than-light travel must join the Galactic Council and accept our guidance. This has been the law for over 1 million years." More aliens appeared on the screen. They were different species, but all wore the same type of uniform. All had the same cold official manner. "Your species will be evaluated," Zel Corvain continued. "If you are found suitable, you will be granted membership in the Council. Your world's population will be limited to sustainable levels. Your industrial capacity will be regulated. Your expansion into space will be controlled." Park Sora moved closer to Dae-ho. "Captain, they're talking about controlling our entire civilization. What happens if we refuse?" Dae-ho asked. The aliens looked surprised. Several of them exchanged glances. "Refuse?" Zel Corvain repeated. "No species has ever refused the protocol. It ensures peace and order throughout the galaxy." "That doesn't answer my question," Dae-ho said firmly. The alien's eyes narrowed. "Species that refuse to join the Council are classified as rogue civilizations. They are contained to their home systems or eliminated if they pose a threat to galactic stability." Dae-ho felt the weight of 8 billion human lives pressing down on him. Earth's governments had sent him out here to make first contact, but they had never imagined this scenario. "What are the exact terms?" he asked. A new alien stepped forward. This one was shorter and covered in gray scales. Your world's population will be reduced to 2 billion individuals through managed decline. No new colonies will be permitted outside your home system. Industrial production will be limited to levels that do not disrupt the galactic economy. All faster-than-light vessels will be surrendered, except for a small number used for approved trade missions. And in exchange? Protection under Council law. Access to basic galactic technology. Guaranteed survival as a species. Deho looked around his bridge. His crew watched him with tense expressions. These were good people who had volunteered to risk their lives exploring the unknown. Now they were being told that humanity's future would be decided by aliens who saw them as nothing more than another species to be managed. How long do we have to decide? Deho asked. Your answer is required immediately, Zell Corvain said. The evaluation process cannot begin until you formally accept the protocol. Deho thought about Earth. He thought about the billions of humans who dreamed of reaching the stars. He thought about the children who looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. He thought about humanity's long struggle to survive and grow and learn. Then he thought about being told they could never grow beyond what some alien council decided was appropriate. First Admiral Zell Corvain, Deho said clearly, humanity respectfully declines your offer. Silence filled the bridge. The aliens on the screen stared at him with obvious shock. You cannot decline, Zell Corvain said finally. Every species accepts the protocol. It is the natural order of galactic civilization. Maybe every other species accepted it, Deho replied. Humans don't. The alien fleet began moving into a different formation. Their weapons powered up, casting a red glow across the moon's surface. Captain Kim Deho of Earth, Zell Corvain. Announced formally, your species is hereby classified as a rogue civilization under Article 7 of the Convergence Protocol. Your vessel will be destroyed, and your home system will be quarantined pending council review. So be it, Deho said. The screen went dark. Around them, 30 massive alien warships prepared to attack a single human exploration vessel. Park Sora moved to her station. Engine repairs will have to wait. I'm bringing all systems online. Taman's hands flew over his controls. Plotting an escape course, Captain. Communications, get me Earth Command, Deho ordered. Priority Alpha, as his crew prepared for battle. Captain Kim Deho realized he had just declared war on the entire galaxy. The stars had their laws and their ancient order, but humanity had something the aliens didn't understand. They had the will to fight for their freedom, even when the odds were impossible. The first shots fired in humanity's war for independence lit up the dark side of the moon like a new sun. The indomitable spirit limped back to Earth with half its systems destroyed. Captain Kim Deho stood before the United Earth Council 3 days later, his uniform still bearing scorch marks from the alien attack. You did what? President Chen Wei-Ming stared at him in disbelief. I told them we wouldn't accept their terms, Deho repeated. They wanted to limit our population, control our industry, and lock us in our own solar system forever. Admiral Cho Young-sik leaned forward in his chair. He was Earth's highest military commander, a man who had fought in every major conflict of the past 20 years. Captain, you just declared war on an entire galaxy. No, sir. I chose freedom over slavery. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Half the representatives wanted Deho arrested. The other half wanted him promoted. President Chen called for order. The aliens are already moving, reported Intelligence Director Park Min-ho. Our long-range sensors show massive fleets gathering at the edge of the solar system. Conservative estimate is 5,000 ships. How many ships do we have? Asked Representative Kim So-young. Admiral Young-sik answered grimly. 47 vessels capable of faster-than-light travel. Most of them are cargo ships with basic weapons. The math was simple and terrifying. Earth faced complete destruction. We could still surrender, suggested Economic Minister Lee Jae-won. Send an apology and accept their terms. And watch 6 billion people die in their population reduction program. Admiral Young-sik stood up. I'd rather we all die fighting. The debate raged for hours. Finally, President Chen called for a vote. The result was close. 51% voted to fight, 49% wanted surrender. Then we fight, Chen announced. Admiral Young-sik, you have full authority to defend Earth. Young-sik wasted no time. Within hours, he had launched Operation Exodus. We can't defend Earth, he explained to his senior staff, but we can make sure humanity survives somewhere else. The plan was desperate, but logical. Every ship that could carry people would be loaded with volunteers and sent into deep space. If Earth fell, at least some humans would survive to continue the species. Dr. Yoon Mi-jin was the first to volunteer. She was Earth's leading expert on quantum physics and had designed the improved engines that kept human ships running. My research is too important to lose, she said simply. Weapons engineer Bae Dong-wook joined next, bringing his experimental kinetic weapons. Someone has to teach the aliens that humans bite back. Within a week, 300 ships gathered at the edge of Earth's solar system. Most were converted cargo vessels, passenger liners, and mining ships. Only 12 were actual warships. 2 million people volunteered to leave Earth forever. They brought with them humanity's most advanced technology, greatest minds, and strongest will to survive. Captain Dae-ho was given command of the fleet's military operations. Admiral Young-sik would stay behind to defend Earth as long as possible. Remember, Young-sik told him before departure, you're not just running away. You're carrying humanity's future. Don't let them break us. The fleet scattered in different directions. Small groups of ships headed toward distant star systems where they might find new homes. The main force, led by the indomitable Spirit, set course for the trade routes where they could gather supplies and intelligence. Their first target was Kepler Station, a massive trading hub located between several major star systems. It was neutral territory where dozens of alien species came to buy and sell goods. Park Sora had installed new quantum cores in the ship's engines, giving them unlimited power. We can outrun anything they have, she reported confidently. The Yao fleet approached Kepler Station 3 weeks after leaving Earth. The station was enormous, easily 50 times larger than any structure humans had ever built. Hundreds of alien ships docked at its ports. Remember the plan, Dae-ho told his crew. We're not pirates. We're survivors. We take what we need and pay for what we can. Station Commander Thex Valdoon was a member of the Karathi species with 4 arms and skin like polished metal. He listened to Dae-ho's request for fuel and supplies with obvious discomfort. I'm sorry, Captain. Council regulations forbid any aid to rogue civilizations. You must leave immediately. We're not asking for charity, Dae-ho replied. We have raw materials to trade. The law is clear. No exceptions. Dae-ho looked around the massive docking bay. Thousands of aliens went about their business, loading cargo and conducting trade. None of them seemed hostile, just afraid. Park, connect us to the station's main power grid, he ordered. Captain, that's basically stealing, she warned. We offered to pay. They refused our money. Now we take what we need. The indomitable Spirit extended mechanical arms and clamped directly onto the station's power coupling. Energy began flowing into the human ship's reserves. Alarms blared throughout the station. Security forces rushed toward the docking bay, but stopped when they saw human soldiers taking defensive positions. This is Station Commander Thex Valdoon, came the announcement. All alien vessels will withdraw immediately or face criminal charges. Dae-ho activated the station's general communication system. This is Captain Kim Dae-ho of the human fleet. We're taking fuel, food, and medical supplies. We'll leave payment in rare metals and fabricated goods. We have no intention of harming anyone. As human crews worked quickly to strip the station's warehouses, Dae-ho continued his broadcast. To all species listening, humans don't recognize the Convergence Protocol. We believe every intelligent species has the right to control their own destiny. Bae Dong-wook had positioned his kinetic weapons to cover all approaches. The crude human guns looked primitive compared to alien energy weapons, but they could punch holes through any armor. Station security tried to intervene twice. Both times, warning shots from human weapons convinced them to keep their distance. The humans were clearly willing to fight, and no one wanted to start a shooting war in a civilian area. In 6 hours, the human fleet had taken everything they needed. True to Deho's word, they left behind payment worth twice the value of what they had taken. As they prepared to leave, Thex Valdoon sent a final message. Captain Deho, you realize this means the Council will never negotiate with your species. Commander, Deho replied, we were never going to surrender anyway. The human fleet departed Kepler Station and disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a station full of witnesses and a galaxy that was beginning to realize something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in galactic history, a species was not just refusing to follow the Convergence Protocol. They were actively breaking its laws and daring anyone to stop them. The Valdorian 7th Fleet arrived at Kepler Station 6 hours later, but found only empty storage bays and confused aliens talking about the strange humans who took what they needed and actually paid for it. Humanity was now officially at war with galactic civilization, and somehow they had just won their first battle. News of the Kepler Station incident spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Captain Kim Deho had become the most wanted criminal in civilized space, but to his surprise, not everyone saw him as a villain. The human fleet had been hiding in the Helix Nebula for 2 months when they received an unexpected message. It came from a dying world called Kythra Prime. Human ships, this is Elder Sil Kavareth of the Kythra people. We know you are outlaws, but we need your help. Deho studied the transmission carefully. The Kythara looked similar to humans, but their skin had a greenish tint, and their eyes were larger. More importantly, they looked desperate. What kind of help? He responded. Our world is poisoned. The air kills our children. The water burns our skin. The Galactic Council says they cannot help us because our planet is classified as an ecological preserve. Dr. Yoon Mi-jin examined the data the Kythera sent. Captain, this is criminal. Their world is dying from industrial pollution, but the Council won't let them clean it up or move somewhere else. Why not? Because 300 years ago, the Council designated their system as protected space. They can live there, but they can't change anything. No terraforming, no large-scale engineering, no relocation to other planets in their system. Park Sora looked at the atmospheric readings. We could fix this. Our atmospheric processors could clean their air in 5 years. It wouldn't even be that difficult. But helping them would break about 20 council laws, Navigator Taman pointed out. Deho made his decision quickly. Set course for Kythera Prime. We're going to help them. The human fleet arrived at the Kythera system to find a world in its death throes. The once blue planet was covered in brown clouds. Cities lay abandoned as the population slowly died from breathing poisoned air. Elder Sil Kevereth met them in person, traveling up to the indomitable spirit in a small shuttle. He was old and sick. His breathing labored even with artificial air support. Why would you help us? He asked Deho. We have nothing to offer you. Because it's the right thing to do, Deho replied simply. The Kythra elder stared at him in confusion. But the council will punish you. They're already trying to destroy us. What's one more crime? Work began immediately. Park Sora led teams of human engineers to the planet's surface, working alongside Kythara scientists to build massive atmospheric scrubbers. The devices were crude by galactic standards, but they worked. Dr. Yoon Mi-jin helped design new water purification systems using human quantum technology. Bae Dong-wook's construction crews built geothermal power plants to run the cleanup equipment. For the first time in centuries, the Kythera had hope. That hope lasted exactly 6 weeks. Captain, reported Communications Officer Lee Jin-ae, we're receiving a transmission from the Valdorian 7th Fleet. They're demanding our immediate surrender. The alien fleet appeared at the edge of the system like a storm cloud. 40 massive warships led by Admiral Zell Corvain himself. Human criminals, came the broadcast. You are in violation of 17 separate council regulations. Cease your illegal activities and prepare to be taken into custody. Deho positioned his ships between the Valdorian fleet and Kythara Prime. He had only 15 combat vessels against 40 enemy warships. The math was hopeless. Admiral Zell Corvain, he transmitted back. We're providing humanitarian aid to a dying species. If that's illegal under your laws, then your laws are wrong. The law is not subject to your approval, human. You will withdraw or be destroyed. The battle that followed shocked both sides. The Valdorians fought the way they always had, with perfect formations and textbook tactics. Their ships moved in coordinated groups following strategies refined over millions of years of galactic warfare. The humans fought like animals. Lieutenant Nam Tai Min piloted the indomitable spirit through maneuvers. That should have been impossible. He flew straight through Valdorian formations, disrupting their careful patterns. When enemy ships tried to surround him, he dove toward the planet's atmosphere, using gravity to slingshot past their weapons. Bai Dongwook's kinetic weapons tore through Valdorian shields like paper. The aliens had designed their defenses to stop energy beams and plasma bolts, not chunks of metal traveling at 20% of light speed. But the real difference was in their willingness to sacrifice. When the Valdorian flagship tried to break through to attack the planet, Engineer Park Sora rammed her ship directly into its engine section. The collision destroyed both vessels, but it saved thousands of Cathara lives on the surface. When 3 enemy cruisers surrounded a damaged human transport, the crew didn't surrender. They overloaded their reactor and took all 3 Valdorian ships with them in the explosion. The humans fought with the desperate fury of people who had nothing left to lose. Every ship that fell took multiple enemies with it. Admiral Zell Corvain watched in horror as his perfectly organized fleet was torn apart by crude human vessels. These creatures fought without honor, without following proper combat protocols, without any regard for the civilized rules of warfare. They fought to win. When the smoke cleared, 22 Valdorian ships were destroyed or crippled. The surviving aliens retreated in disorder, something that hadn't happened in their military history. The humans had lost 9 ships and over 3,000 people. But Cathara Prime was safe. Elder Sil Kevereth stood on his world's surface and breathed clean air for the first time in decades. Around him, green plants were beginning to grow in soil that had been sterile poison just months before. Why? He asked Captain Deho as they watched human engineers continue their work. Why did your people die for strangers? Deho looked up at the stars where his friends had given their lives. Because somebody has to stand up to bullies. Because every thinking being deserves a chance to live. Because that's what makes us human. Word of the Battle of Cathara spread faster than the Council could suppress it. For the first time in galactic history, the mighty Valdorian fleet had been defeated by a smaller force. More importantly, a rogue species had successfully protected an entire world from Council law. Across the galaxy, oppressed species began to wonder, if the humans could win, maybe they could too. The rebellion was about to begin. The victory at Cathara Prime changed everything. Within months, rebellion spread across the galaxy like a virus that the Galactic Council could not contain. Captain Kim Dae-ho received the first message while his fleet was still repairing battle damage. It came from Commander Kex Tholan of the Nexari Mining Consortium. Human leader, we have watched your victory. The Nexari people are ready to fight for our freedom. Will you help us? Dr. Yoon Mi-jin studied the Nexari situation on her portable computer. Captain, these people have been slaves for 800 years. The Council controls every asteroid belt in their system and gives them starvation-level food quotas. What do they want from us? Tactical advice and some equipment. They're not asking us to fight their war for them. More messages arrived daily. The underground resistance on Prometheus 7th wanted human weapon designs. The Korlax Industrial Union was planning to break free from production restrictions. The Telvanni Collective requested help with faster-than-light communication systems. Admiral Cho Young-sik had made it off Earth before the planet fell to Council forces. He brought grim news when his ship found the main human fleet. Earth surrendered. After a 6-month siege, he reported. The population has been relocated to processing centers. But the good news is that 18 million humans escaped in the evacuation ships. Dae-ho felt the weight of his species' survival on his shoulders. How many ships do we have total now? 800 vessels scattered across 40 systems. We're not just refugees anymore, Captain. We're the center of a galactic revolution. The scale of the uprising surprised everyone, including the humans. Species that had been loyal council members for thousands of years suddenly began breaking ancient laws. The Valdorian military found itself fighting dozens of separate conflicts simultaneously. Daeho realized they needed better coordination. He split his fleet into smaller task forces, each led by one of his most trusted officers. Park Sora took a team of engineers to help the Korlax break free from industrial restrictions. The alien manufacturing world had been limited to producing basic goods for centuries while their people lived in poverty. "It's criminal," Sora reported after studying their facilities. "They have the technology to build starships, but the Council forces them to make furniture and clothing instead." Within weeks, human-designed factories were producing Korlax warships, using techniques the aliens had been forbidden to use. The vessels were crude but effective, and there were hundreds of them. Navigator Taemin led fast scout ships to establish communication networks between rebel cells. His ships carried Dr. Yoon Mi-jin's quantum transmitters, devices that allowed instant communication across galactic distances. "We're connecting every resistance movement," he told Daeho during one of their weekly conferences. "The Council can't stop messages they can't intercept." Weapons engineer Bae Dong-wook traveled to different worlds to train alien resistance fighters. His students learned that human combat doctrine was completely different from traditional galactic warfare. "Forget formations," he taught them. "Forget honor. Forget fighting fair. Your goal is to win, and dead enemies can't shoot back." But Dr. Yoon Mi-jin made the most important discovery of all. While studying captured Council technology, she found references to something called protocol cores. These were ancient quantum computers hidden throughout the galaxy that somehow enforced Council laws. "Captain, I think these machines don't just coordinate galactic civilization," she explained. "They actively prevent certain types of development." "What do you mean?" "I mean they're suppressing technology and social progress. Any species that tries to advance beyond Council-approved levels finds their innovations mysteriously failing, or their society collapsing from internal problems." Mi-jin's theory was tested when she successfully hacked the protocol core in the Rigel system. Immediately, 3 different species in that sector experienced sudden technological breakthroughs. Devices that had never worked before suddenly functioned perfectly. Social movements that had failed for decades suddenly succeeded. The Council isn't just governing the galaxy, Mi-jin realized. They're controlling its evolution. The implications were staggering. Every species' development had been artificially limited for millions of years. The Galactic Council wasn't maintaining order. They were preventing progress. Word of the protocol cores spread through the resistance networks like wildfire. Suddenly, the rebellion wasn't just about individual species fighting for freedom. It was about liberating the entire galaxy from artificial constraints. But the Council's response was swift and merciless. Supreme Arbiter Zen Corvain, the highest authority in galactic civilization, issued a decree that changed everything. Humanity was now classified as a Class Omega threat, a danger to the fundamental structure of galactic society. Any species providing aid to the human criminals will be subject to immediate sanctions, the decree stated. Any world harboring human fugitives will be quarantined. Any government negotiating with human representatives will be dissolved. More terrifyingly, the Supreme Arbiter authorized the use of convergence weapons. These were reality-altering devices that could erase entire star systems from existence. The first target was the Nexari home system. Commander Kex Tholan's rebellion had been too successful, inspiring dozens of other mining operations to break free from Council control. The convergence weapon struck without warning. One moment, the Nexari system contained 6 planets and over 2 billion people. The next moment, there was only empty space. The message was clear: rebellion would be met with complete annihilation. But instead of terrifying other species into submission, the destruction of the Nexari system had the opposite effect. Across the galaxy, beings who had been considering rebellion realized they had no choice but to fight. The Council had shown they were willing to commit genocide to maintain control. The resistance movement exploded into open warfare, The Kythera declared their independence and began building warships. The Korlax Industrial Union announced they would only produce weapons for the rebellion. A dozen other species joined the growing alliance against council rule. At the center of it all, the human fleet continued to grow. Every victory brought new allies. Every successful mission proved that the council's power could be challenged. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit and watched hundreds of ships from dozens of species forming up for their next mission. 6 months ago, he had been commanding a single exploration vessel. Now he was leading a galactic revolution. "Captain," reported Communications Officer Lee Jin-A, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth." The message was from Admiral Young-Sik, still coordinating human resistance from captured territory. "Deho, the Council is massing their entire fleet for a final assault. Target, Earth. They're going to make an example of humanity's homeworld." The decisive battle was coming. Humanity had started a galactic civil war, and now they would have to finish it. The stars had laws that had kept the galaxy in chains for millions of years. But laws could be broken, and chains could be shattered. The question was whether they could do it before the Council destroyed everything they were fighting to save. The Council's final fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 10,000 ships from every member species, led by Supreme Arbiter Zen Corvain himself, aboard the massive command vessel Eternal Order. Captain Kim. Deho watched the enemy armada approach Earth through the view screen of the Indomitable Spirit. His own fleet numbered barely 2,000 vessels, most of them converted civilian ships crewed by desperate volunteers. "They're not trying to hide their strength," observed Navigator Taemin. "This is meant to be a demonstration." Admiral Cho Young-Sik's voice crackled over the communication system from his hidden base on Earth's moon. "Deho, you need to retreat. This isn't a battle you can win. If we run now, they'll hunt us forever," Deho replied. "Besides, there's nowhere left to run to." The Supreme Arbiter's broadcast reached every ship in both fleets simultaneously. The ancient being appeared on screens throughout the solar system, his crystalline features showing no emotion. "Humans and their criminal allies," Zen Corvain began. "You have brought chaos to a galaxy that has known peace for millions of years. Your species will now serve as an example of what happens to those who reject the natural order." Dr. Yoon Mi-jin worked frantically at her station, uploading her virus into the communication stream. "Captain, if I can get this program into their main network, it should start shutting down protocol cores across the galaxy. How long do you need?" 20 minutes of direct contact with their command ship. Deho looked at the massive enemy fleet. Getting close enough to the Eternal Order for 20 minutes would be suicide. "Do it," he ordered. The Battle of Earth began at exactly 1432 Standard Time. The Council fleet advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charging with deadly precision. The human-led alliance met them in loose, chaotic groups that seemed to have no coordination. To any outside observer, the outcome was obvious. Supreme Arbiter Zen Corvain watched the primitive forces approach with cold satisfaction. These creatures had caused more disruption in 2 years than the galaxy had seen in 20,000. It would be satisfying to end their rebellion personally. "All units maintain formation," he commanded. "Destroy the human ships first, then eliminate their allies." But as the two fleets engaged, something went wrong with the Council's battle plan. The human ships didn't fight like civilized beings. They ignored proper tactical doctrine completely. Instead of engaging in long-range artillery duels, they drove straight into the Council formations at maximum speed. Lieutenant Nam Tae-min piloted the Indomitable Spirit through impossible maneuvers, weaving between Council vessels while Park Sora's engineers diverted all power to forward shields. Enemy weapons fire that should have destroyed them harmlessly scattered off their crude but effective armor. Bae Dong-wook's kinetic weapons proved devastating at close range. Council ships designed to fight energy-based wars found their shields useless against simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. But the real shock came from the alien allies. The Kythera had learned human tactics well. Their ships abandoned formation and began ramming attacks against Council cruisers. When Kythera vessels were damaged beyond repair, their crews activated self-destruct systems to take nearby enemies with them. The Korlax industrial ships weren't built for combat, but they carried massive manufacturing equipment that could be weaponized. Council vessels found themselves under attack by mining lasers and construction drones that tore through their hulls. Most disturbing of all were the species that had been loyal council members for millennia. The Altarian Defense Fleet, the Centauri Border Guard, the Vegan Trade Consortium, all had quietly switched sides during the battle. "This is impossible," Supreme Arbiter Zen Corvain muttered as his perfect battle plan collapsed into chaos. "These creatures have no discipline, no honor, no understanding of proper warfare." His tactical officer, a four-armed Kelthari, looked up from his instruments with confusion. "Sir, they're winning." The humans fought with desperate creativity. When conventional weapons failed, they improvised new ones. Cargo ships became improvised missiles. Passenger liners turned their life support systems into crude chemical weapons. Mining vessels used their ore crushers to literally chew through enemy hulls. More importantly, they fought with the fury of people defending their home. Captain Day-Ho pushed the indomitable spirit deeper into the council formation, heading straight for the Eternal Order. Enemy fire hammered his shields, but Park Sora kept the engines running through impossible damage. "Quantum cores are overloading," she reported. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before total system failure." "That's all I need," replied Dr. Yoon Mi-jin. "I'm detecting the command ship's main network. Beginning upload now." The virus began spreading through the Council's communication system like a digital plague. On the bridge of the Eternal Order, warning lights started flashing as protocol cores throughout the galaxy began shutting down. "What is happening?" Zen Corvain demanded. His science officer's voice was filled with panic. "Sir, the protocol cores are going offline. All of them. Every system we've used to maintain galactic order for the past 5 million years is failing. Across the galaxy, artificial constraints that had shaped civilization for eons began to collapse. Species that had been locked at primitive technology levels suddenly found themselves developing faster than light travel. Worlds that had been forbidden from industrialization began building their own futures. The rigid hierarchy that had kept some species above others started crumbling as suppressed innovations suddenly became possible. On Earth, Admiral Youngsik watched from his hidden command center as the impossible happened. The Council's perfect formations dissolved into confusion as their reality manipulation technology failed. Ships that had been held together by artificial gravity wells began breaking apart. "All human forces," he broadcast. "The protocol cores are down. This is our chance. Hit them with everything we have." The final phase of the battle was more slaughter than combat. Council ships designed to fight under the old laws found themselves helpless as the fundamental rules of reality shifted around them. The Eternal Order itself, a vessel that had existed for over 1,000,000 years, began to tear itself apart as its ancient systems failed. Supreme Arbiter Zen Corvain found himself trapped aboard a dying ship, watching his perfect galactic civilization collapse. "How?" he asked Dr. Yoon Mi-jin when she appeared on his view screen. "How did you destroy systems that took millions of years to build?" Mi-jin's answer was simple. "We didn't destroy anything. We just stopped following your rules. The Battle of Earth ended with the complete destruction of the Council fleet. But more importantly, it ended with the collapse of the artificial order that had controlled the galaxy for millions of years. For the first time in galactic history, every species was free to choose its own destiny. The war was over. The real work was just beginning." 1 year after the Battle of Earth, Captain Kim Dae-ho stood in the rebuilt council chambers of what had once been the Galactic Council's headquarters. Representatives from over 300 species filled the hall, but this time they were there. By choice, not by ancient law. The transformation had been remarkable and chaotic. With the protocol cores offline, species across the galaxy had experienced explosive growth. The Cathera had developed new faster-than-light engines in just 6 months. The Korlax had built their first space cities. Even primitive species that had been locked at Stone Age levels for millennia were suddenly developing advanced technology. "The question," said Eldersil Kevereth of the Cathera, "is what we do now. How do we govern the galaxy without the old system?" The debate had been raging for months. Some species wanted to rebuild the Galactic Council with more democratic principles. Others preferred complete independence. A few even suggested that humanity should rule, since they had led the rebellion. Admiral Cho Young-sik, now serving as Earth's representative, shook his head at the last suggestion. Humanity didn't fight this war to become the new masters. We fought for the right of every species to control their own destiny. Dr. Yoon Mi-jin had spent the year studying the remains of the Protocol Core network. Her discoveries had been disturbing. The artificial constraints weren't just limiting technology, she reported. They were preventing social evolution too. Species were being kept in specific cultural patterns to maintain stability. Which explains why every rebellion before ours failed, added weapons engineer Bae Dong-wook. The protocol cores were actively suppressing revolutionary thinking. The solution they eventually reached was simpler than anyone had expected. Instead of creating a new galactic government, they would form voluntary associations of species with common interests. The Free Systems Alliance became the largest of these groups. It included humanity, the Cathara, the Korlax, and 57 other species committed to mutual aid without central control. There were no universal laws, no supreme authorities, no protocols that bound every member to the same fate. Other species formed their own alliances based on different principles. The former Council loyalists created the Stability Compact, trying to maintain some version of the old order. Warrior species formed the Honor Confederation. Trade-focused civilizations established the Commerce League. It's messy, admitted Navigator Taemin during one of their planning sessions. There's going to be conflicts between the different groups. Messy is better than dead, replied Captain Daeho. And dead is what we all would have been under the Council system. The first major test came when the Valdorian Empire tried to reimpose the Convergence Protocol on their former subject species. Admiral Zel Corvain, now Supreme Commander of the Valdorian Fleet, declared that his people would restore order to the galaxy. The response surprised him. Instead of humanity fighting alone, dozens of species came to oppose the Valdorian expansion. The Free Systems Alliance provided military support, but so did many independent worlds that simply didn't want to return to the old ways. The Battle of Vega was brief and decisive. The Valdorians discovered that their military doctrine, developed for controlling primitive species, was useless against opponents who had learned human tactics. We offer the Valdorian Empire membership in the Free Systems Alliance, Daeho broadcast after their surrender. But only if they abandon their imperial ambitions. It took 6 months of negotiation, but eventually the Valdorians accepted. They had citizens who preferred freedom to the rigid hierarchy of their old system. Park Sora had become the galaxy's leading expert on quantum engineering. Her designs were being used by dozens of species to build better ships, cleaner cities, and more efficient power systems. The irony, she told Daeho, is that we're advancing faster now that we're not being controlled. The protocol cores weren't maintaining order, they were preventing progress. The changes weren't all positive. Some species used their newfound freedom to wage wars against old enemies. Others developed dangerous technologies without considering the consequences. A few worlds destroyed themselves through environmental disasters or social collapse. But for every tragedy, there were 10 success stories. Species that had been extinct were brought back through genetic engineering. Worlds that had been poisoned were cleaned and restored. Civilizations that had stagnated for millennia began exploring new ideas and new territories. 5 years after the rebellion, Captain Daeho received a promotion to Admiral and command of the first joint exploration mission to the Galactic Core. His crew included beings from 20 different worlds, united not by ancient laws but by shared curiosity about what lay beyond the next star. The ship was called New Horizon, and it represented everything the galaxy had become. It was built using Cathara engines, Korlax manufacturing techniques, human weapons, and innovations from a dozen other species. It was ugly, efficient, and absolutely unstoppable. "Ready for departure, Admiral," reported Chief Engineer Park Sora. From her station, "Navigation systems online," added Lieutenant Nam Taemin. "Course plotted for the Galactic Center." As the ship entered hyperspace, Daeho reflected on how much had changed. 3 years ago, he had been a simple exploration captain. Now he was leading an expedition that would have been impossible under the old system. The communication system chimed with an incoming message. It was from Earth, now rebuilt and thriving as the unofficial capital of the Free Systems Alliance. "Admiral Daiho," came President Chen Wei-ming's voice. "Humanity is proud of what you've accomplished, but remember, you're not just representing our species anymore. You're representing the idea that intelligent beings can choose their own path among the stars." "Understood, Mr. President," Daiho replied. "We won't let you down." As the New Horizon raced toward the unknown regions at the galaxy's heart, its diverse crew worked together with the easy cooperation that had become common in the post-Council era. Humans served alongside former enemies, sharing knowledge and techniques that would have been forbidden under the old laws. The stars had once had laws that kept every species in its assigned place. Those laws had promised order, stability, and peace. What they had actually delivered was stagnation, oppression, and the slow death of innovation and hope. Now the galaxy was chaotic, dangerous, and unpredictable. Species made their own mistakes and achieved their own victories. Some worlds thrived while others struggled. There was conflict, but there was also growth. Most importantly, there was choice. Dr. Yoon Mi-jin, now serving as the ship's science officer, looked up from her instruments with excitement. "Admiral, I'm detecting something incredible ahead. Artificial structures on a scale we've never seen before." "How big?" Daiho asked. "Bigger than star systems. This could be technology from the galaxy's first civilization." The crew prepared for another discovery, another mystery, another adventure in a universe that was finally free to surprise them. The stars had laws no more. In their place was something far more powerful, the combined will of countless species determined to write their own destiny among the infinite possibilities of space. Behind them, the galaxy continued its chaotic, wonderful, dangerous journey toward whatever future its people would choose to create. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had liberated them, and in doing so, they had saved not just themselves, but the very concept of freedom itself.